How in the world has it already been 5 months with the Lumix S9? This is my long-term review of the Lumix S9 from the perspective of somebody who's used it as a daily dad cam for high-quality photos and video of my family, and I've also used it on some professional stuff like an engagement shoot. We're gonna get into all of it, and hopefully I can help you guys decide if it's something that could fit into your workflow, especially after the big firmware update that dropped for this, or if it's a big ol' stinker. This video is sponsored by Lexar. Before we talk about the pros, cons, interesting lens options, we have to get into a little bit of context really quick. A question we have to ask is, who was Panasonic's intended target user for this compact full frame mirrorless? If you look at their marketing, it's all based around content creators who want to shoot high quality photos, high quality video footage without the hassle of editing. Straight up on their website, there is a line through the word edit, which is something we can't overlook. It's a big deal. And looking at that, does the S9 actually appeal to those people? Now personally, I don't know a single soul out there who purchased the S9 as their Instagram Reels camera. I'm sure those folks exist, and God bless you if you're one of them, but what I've seen about the S9 has come mostly from seasoned shooters. And I think this is where some of the tension kicked in around the S9, because you have this group of people being marketed to, but all that marketing is also falling into the hands of more seasoned shooters and coming from the mouths of more seasoned shooters, which started to cause that tension. And I think the S9 can be useful for its intended shooters, but it's gonna come with some steep learning curves, which I've learned a lot about. That first learning curve is the LUT and Lumix Lab workflow. And if you're a beginner, you probably have no idea what I'm even saying. Basically, Lumix released an app called Lumix Lab that coincides with the S9. It works with their other cameras as well, but it launched with the S9 as a way to build your own photography and video presets in the app, exporting those presets to your camera, and then being able to shoot with those presets baked into your files. So if you just choose to shoot with your preset in a JPEG photography mode, what you shoot is what you get in camera, so you don't have to edit later. And the way they do that is with LUTs, which stands for Lookup Table. All it is a preset file in basic terms that you can bake into your photos and your footage, and it works super well. But if you're one of the intended users of this camera, I think that LUTs and Lumix Lab would probably be pretty overwhelming. Now, they've kind of worked around that by giving you internal options that just came with the camera, but you get way better results if you're making nice presets for yourself or getting them from other creators. But let's talk about the other people that got the S9 in their hands or got interested about it or got up in arms about it. Those are the seasoned shooters we talked about. The S9 also can be good for these people as well. I mean, it shoots 24 megapixel clean full frame photos, 6K 3x2 open gate footage that can be in Vlog, or you can bake in your LUT to it. Looks amazing. I guess my overarching opinion is that this camera can be great for so many people, but it's almost so jam-packed with features and capabilities that it makes it confusing who it should actually be used by. So why the heck did I buy the S9? Well, I feel like I actually kind of fit into the intended user that this camera is going for, but in a slightly different way. I've been on the hunt for the perfect daily documentary dad cam for months and months now. I wanted to be able to shoot high quality photos and high quality videos that will last my entire lifetime and that my kids can look back on and be super excited that I documented their lives. As I've said in other videos, this is what my memories look like.
Now that Zach doesn't have any really good electronics, I'm about to hook him up with these things.
It still looks rad, let's be honest. I tried the Fuji X100VI, which had incredible photography features, Fuji's amazing film simulations baked in that I don't feel the need to edit or use an external app to get great results from, which made me so close to using that as my daily dad camera. But honestly, the video performance, although the image itself on paper is incredible, the autofocus in video was pretty mid, and the overall shooting experience for video just felt janky and I didn't like it. So I also tried the Nikon ZF, which is full frame. It's a retro style body with incredible build quality, beautiful photos, but they don't have the robust film simulation setup that Fuji and now Lumix have. There was kind of a way to get film simulations on the Nikon, but as we learned from that video, it was just kind of busted. That's when the S9 got announced. I had no information from Panasonic, no information from any of my frickin' YouTube friends. None of them broke their NDAs to me. Good boys. And genuinely, as soon as that camera came out, I purchased it before I could even finish watching one video because it seemed like it was calling to me. It had high quality photos and video, honestly kind of crazy specs for both, and it had a JPEG simulation system with Lumix Lab that seemed perfect for what I was going for as a daily dad documentary camera. I just had to flesh out that context so you guys can see the perspective I'm coming at from the S9, because I think that's where a lot of the fire and flames came from with this camera. Is like, it's just confusing who it's for. And I think that's what makes it difficult to review. Reviews are hard in general because like everybody uses it in slightly different ways, but I just needed to paint the picture of my perspective. And now we can dive into the All right, the first pro is the full frame sensor. Now this is something that I wasn't even necessarily looking for in my daily camera, but it's just a benefit because of how amazing everything looks. It's slightly larger than life, and the images from this camera are clean, dude. I mean, you're getting the same sensor from the Lumix S5 II and 2X, which are slightly more expensive options, but like all the quality basically is smashed into this tiny pocketable camera. And that is the next pro, just the size and pocketability of this beautiful little camera. I love the design, it's really cool, although there isn't really a grip on it natively, so I got this little small rig bottom plate here that gives me an Arca Swiss mount so I can put it on tripods and stuff, but also it gives you a little bit of a grip right here so you can actually hold the dang thing. Highly recommend that. All the links to whatever I'm mentioning below. Now the next pro is Lumix Lab and the LUT workflow. As I said, I've always been a fan of Fuji's film simulations, and Lumix has somehow adapted that kind of system into their cameras, but also greatly expanded upon it. They make it so easy to just download the Lumix Lab, transfer the photos you shoot on your camera directly to your phone. Like, the transfer is actually quick. You can have it auto transfer, or you can set it up where you manually select what photos you want to transfer, and either way, it's very fast and the Bluetooth connection is solid. Once you have those photos in your camera, that's where you can take that photo, add your settings to it, your color grade, however you want to stylize it, and take that stylized look and turn it into a LUT that you transfer back to your camera, and then you can shoot with that look baked into your photos if you shoot in JPEG. It's truly amazing, and once you figure out the workflow that can be kind of overwhelming in the beginning, once you get that sorted out, it's so awesome, man, getting to make your own custom presets. Here's how I make mine. So in the camera, I make sure that my photo style is set up as Vlog. And all that means is that my base profile that I'm gonna be building upon is Vlog, which has the most dynamic range possible because it's a log curve profile. If you're a beginner, basically think of it like this. All movies shoot their footage in this flat looking log profile, which retains the most information in the shadows and the highlights at the same time. And then you have to color grade it later to make it look like this.
Nice and punchy.
And then what I do is I shoot some clips with that log curve, and then I put it in my computer. I open those clips in DaVinci Resolve. Once I get my grade finalized where I like it and it works on a majority of my clips, I export that grade as a 33-point LUT. Make sure you do 33. If you go higher than that, I don't think it works. Save that LUT wherever you want, and then I airdrop it to my phone from my computer. And then with my phone, I can send it to my camera and then just shoot with that DaVinci Resolve color grade baked into my photos and my videos. It's freaking sick. So I made 2 different ones, and I'll put them below. You can just have them for free if you want them. One of them is a little bit more blue in the shadows, and then the other one is slightly more tame with the blue in the shadows. It's a little bit warmer because I like both looks depending on the day and the location. And I've found that these work really well, even if you just have your camera with auto white balance, auto everything, which is how I've been shooting, honestly. These look really nice in pretty much all situations, so you're welcome. And you can also take this preset one step further in camera. So once you have your LUT in your camera and you select it with the real-time LUT button, you can also open the photo style menu, which I have set up in my quick menu, and you can add grain, low, normal, and strong, or you can add color noise. You can customize the whole preset a little bit further if you want, but I just love adding a little bit of grain, and it makes these photos just feel so good. It's exactly what I've been wanting. There's also one other amazing thing I can do with transferring photos from my S9 to my phone. Lexar recently sent me their Pexar frame, which is so cool, and I'm gonna be using this every day And basically all you have to do is unbox the Pexar frame. It has a magnetic back that makes it easy to sit up like an actual picture frame. Turn it on, download the Frameo app on your phone, and once you quickly set up your account, it's so sick. You can just take the photos that are from your S9 or whatever photos you have on your phone, import them into the Frameo app, and then they'll display on this picture frame. And for me, this is a perfect pairing with the S9 specifically, because one of the biggest reasons I wanted this camera was to document my family. And further than that, you can invite your family and friends with a link that's sent through the Frameo app to them, and they can enjoy these photos as well. If they have a Pexar frame or the Frameo app, it makes sharing them so fun. If you guys are interested in this, please click the top link in the description. When you support the sponsors of this channel, you're directly supporting me and my family and these videos. So I appreciate you guys so much. And thank you, Lexar, for sponsoring this video. So for those photos, I shoot primarily everything automatic mode. You can curse at me if you'd like, but I'm just gonna block you. But for video, I've been shooting everything in 6K open gate, 24 frames per second, with my LUT baked into the footage. There's just so much to love about the video features of this camera. You have a flip screen, you have 6K open gate 3x2, cinema 4K if you wanna roll that way. There's also an MP4 light mode that you can shoot in, and the only reason you would probably wanna do that is because it's the only format on the S9 that you can transfer directly from camera to your phone. So you could post those clips right away. One request I'd like to make to Panasonic, if you guys are watching, is to give us an option that isn't 30 frames per second in the MP4 light mode. I don't want to document my son's life in 30p. I just feel like that's a curse. Sorry. The IBIS is best in class. It's better than my Sony FX30, which has like the best stabilization in a Sony mirrorless. And the internal mic on this camera is surprisingly good. So I am about to play guitar for Levi for the very first time. You like that? And then another huge pro for me is just having a custom dial, which is pretty normal on cameras nowadays. But basically I have C1 set up as my dad pics mode, which is my baked in LUT, little bit of grain, and shooting auto in JPEGs. Like I'm ripping dad pics. And then C2 is my open gate manual video mode, but baking in that LUT to my footage. The battery life is also really good on this camera, and you can charge it over USB-C if you run out. I only have one battery, so I just charge it over USB-C every time. The autofocus is solid, and they've updated it to work even better with animals, which is kind of cool if you have pets, which I do. Also with the new firmware, you can take off the video record limit, which was a huge complaint when this camera launched, but now you have to go into your setting, turn off that limit, and you can basically just record until the camera dies or overheats. But you're gonna be able to get plenty of time. I got nearly an hour and a half before my camera overheated. My friend Connor, his just recorded until his battery died. So you're gonna get great results. And then there's also multiple frame markers if you guys wanna shoot an open gate but finish in a different aspect ratio, whether it's vertical for TikTok, Instagram, or 16:9 for YouTube, whatever you wanna do. But this little guy is not perfect, however much I do enjoy it. There is a lot of quirks, a lot of qualms, and some things that bug me like crazy. So let's start with the least annoying thing and then move up to the biggest peeve. First one genuinely doesn't bother me, but it's a cold shoe on the top of the camera instead of a sexy shoe. Basically, because it's a cold shoe, you can't use any like flash attachments or whatever, but again, you gotta think about the intended user of this camera. They probably don't even know what a flash is other than Dwayne Wade in his prime.
Wade, what a dunk by Dwayne Wade!
That was a great reference, good job, Zach. The next con I wrote down, I'm just gonna read this word for word. Single card slot. Even though the target users are Instagram Real housewives, clearly single slot shooters if you know what I mean. And then in parentheses, I honestly don't know what I mean.
And I still don't.
There is a mic jack on this camera, but there's no headphone jack. And I don't give a rip about this, even though I'm a video shooter, but if I don't mention it, some guy named Greg GH69 will rip me apart in the comments. So there you go, Gregory. Another con that I haven't seen anybody else mention is that the time to turn on this camera is pretty slow. It's actually made me miss some key moments. So let's just test it really quick. That's slow. I'm sorry. Like, I've used Red cinema cameras that turn on faster than that, I swear. And of course, the biggest con of the S9 is this. There's no frickin' viewfinder. I know the EVF is a deal breaker for so many people because I've seen tons of comments about it on my channel. I've seen other people talk about it too. And it really is annoying, like especially when you're outside trying to get photographs, and the fact that it's a flip screen makes it more annoying just for photography. Because if you have a camera strap on this camera and you use the flip screen, the strap blocks the screen. So it makes you have to put the screen flat against the back, and then low angles makes you have to hunch over. That's why I wanted the GH7 screen on this camera, or at the very least a tilt screen. It's weird because I love flip screens, but I would take a tilt screen on this over a flip screen. And it's not just for pros to be annoyed by. Like, this is frustrating, even just documenting my child. Like, there's just something more immersive about having an EVF blocking out the world and you're just seeing that photo that you're trying to take. It's just way better, in my opinion, as an experience. And this camera just doesn't provide that, even though it has all the image quality that I want. The full frame, everything's so great except for this. And to further this point, I brought this camera on an engagement shoot me and my wife did for our friends last week. We kept accidentally hitting the touch screen so many times on the S9 that it would move the focus point. This would be alleviated if the screen was shut and I had my eye up to a viewfinder where I could see everything and move the focus point with a little nipple dial or something, which this camera also doesn't have. This whole situation further emphasized to me that shooting photography on Lumix in like a professional setting at all is not enjoyable for the most part. Like, to fix the focus point, you either have to click and touch the focus point again on the screen to get it where you want it. Then you have to let that autofocus point load for a second before the options on the bottom of the screen come up. And then an option called display reset comes up that you have to touch with your finger, and then the focus point resets back to the middle of the screen. So you either have to shoot in a full zone that can automatically detect the subject and trust that autofocus to do that every time, or disable the touch screen on your camera. This isn't a deal breaker or anything, but I just think Lumix could do a lot more in terms of the photography shooting experience and like the load speeds and stuff down the line maybe. Now, if you want this camera to be a pocket camera, you pretty much have to use Lumix's f8 manual focus pancake, which I refuse to use. I will never use that lens. So are there compact lenses that work on this full frame sensor? Kind of. The first one I found, I've mentioned this in another video, but this is the 7 Artisans 35mm 1.4. The images that come out of this lens are gorgeous and have kind of like a soft, slightly vintagey vibe to them, but at the cost of being fully manual focus and manual aperture. This is version 2 of the lens, but they discontinued this and recently came out with version 3. If you're curious to try it out, links below. If you want autofocus and good quality images, there's not really pancake lenses yet or anything even close to that 7 Artisan size. What I would recommend is the Panasonic 1.8 primes, which are pretty affordable in terms of like full frame prime lenses that look that good. The 35mm in particular looks absolutely incredible. That lens is awesome for photo and video. It's a little bit plasticky, but that means it's really lightweight. So that's an amazing option. If you want something that's autofocus but slightly better build quality, I think these Sigma primes are absolutely incredible, and I've been testing them recently. I have the 20mm, which makes for some incredible wide angle footage to get really close to your subject but still get background blur. They're both f2 lenses and they come in a lot of different focal lengths. They're a little bit heavier than the Panasonic primes, but the quality of Sigma lenses, dude, they're so good. I love the image quality and the build quality. The autofocus is relatively quick as well for photo and video, so you should be good to go there. It might be a little heavy if you're taking it on a vacation or something, but you're gonna get the protection of the build quality and the amazing image quality that Sigma offers. And if you're a psychopath using this camera for video and you wanna go anamorphic, these Blazars are really cool. Obviously they come in PL mount, but you can get a PL to L mount adapter and get incredible anamorphic footage that's relatively compact. I don't have the adapter on me at the moment, but I mean, this is like a compact anamorphic setup. It would be sticking out about this far. And again, this all goes back to the fact that this camera can be good and great for so many different types of people, which is just kind of cool that Lumix does that. It makes things quirky and difficult to recommend, but like, this camera is pretty awesome, dude. Whew, text me when you get home so I know you're safe. Watch out for deer. I almost got hit by a buck yesterday and it was scary. And you guys are loved way more than you might know. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Jeez Louise.